Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now over the last 4.5 years of me doing this, I've had some amazing firsts, and it's crazy to think that it's took me 4.5 years to get my first custom knife. Now this is these are from Leading Edge Knife Works. They're a small knife maker here in the UK. To add a bit of backstory to this, a few years back Ev got in touch with me. I'd like to think I was a reasonably new kind of content creator, and he'd seen, we talked about different things. He loves friction folders. This is a friction folder, and he sent me one of his. It was his own actual one, which I loved. And straight away I was like, look, if I'm going to buy a custom knife, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to nail my flag to the post, to the wooden thing, and yeah, I'm going to get my first knife from you guys. And there was a second knife that was in development that that Ev later sent to me, which was the PCK, which is a pocket chef's knife. You will hopefully see that there are, and again, we will have a closer look at this soon, but you'll see some similarities with the Spyderco chef knife, which is Ev's favourite knife. He just has got mad respect for that knife, just the geometry, the style, the looks. And being a knife maker, he wanted to create something that was not a clone, not a copy, but something that was just an homage to that in the way that you do something special when there's certainly something that you appreciate. And when was it now? Just before Christmas, he was really working with some different handle materials, and I was like, I think there's something that we need to try. So I'll stop waffling and I'll turn the camera around and we'll take a closer look at this, and I'll give you a little bit more backstory. Now while I'm doing that, I will leave some links at the end of this, and I'll leave some links while I'm talking about certain things, because it will help to explain exactly how this knife came around for me. But I have previously made a piece of content on the PCK, which I will leave a link to. Is it here? I don't know. I'll leave a link to here-ish, because that does go a little bit more in depth into the knife itself. But really, I just want to talk about how this knife came around, and yeah, kind of what it means to me. But for now, let's turn the camera around and take a closer look. Okay, now I will quickly give you a few specs about this knife itself. So the blade steel is 01 tool steel, which is a very popular steel in the knife industry. Tool steels are certainly well respected in the fact that they're there for a reason. That is a steel that is used to make tools, certainly cutting tools, things that need to stay sharp but can also take, to some extent, a bit of a beating and still be able to continue to work, but also for a lot of craftsmen, should something like a chisel get blunt, then it should be easy to be able to resharpen that. Now we'll give you some measurements. We're not really here today to talk too much about measurements. When it's open, it comes in at just short of 16.5 centimeters, which is roughly 6.5 inches. The blade length on this, now in the UK laws have recently changed. It is now less about the length of the cutting edge and more about the complete length of the knife itself. So the cutting edge does disappear past where the scales start, but it's still less than 3 inches. It is 2 inches and 628ths of something like that. Whereas in millimeters, we are looking at just about 70 millimeters. Now let's get this out of the way for a second. because I really just want to tell you more about this knife and Ev, and you know how this kind of came around. So Ev is a UK-based knife maker just across the sea from England in the Emerald Isles. And yeah, so we got in touch a few years back. He sent me a couple of knives, and his own PCK at the time was a knife that he sent, and just kind of fell in love with it. I do like the Spidey Chef's knife, so I like the kind of look and geometry of this knife. But really there's a few more steps back. So what I'm just going to do is put this to one side for a second, and hopefully you should remember this knife. So last year I was lucky enough to be able to go on a 2-day intensive knife making course with York Knives. Here on the back you can see, so York Knife, and there you have my Moorlander EDC logo. Working with Luke from York Knives was an absolutely amazing experience. In fact, I'll leave a link here so that you can see the video on exactly how I made this. And this is 97.3888 recurring my knife. I completely made this knife from the grind to the scales. Everything on here was fabricated by me. It's all part of the experience. But whilst I was there, I came across this material, and this is spalted beech. So the way in which spalted beech is made, it's just regular beech wood that has been worked. And what they do is they take it, and then they, from what I remember, they cover it in sand. So they go out and they leave it there for a while, and it's not just like a few weeks. They leave it there for a good while. And where all of these growth lines are and all of these little veins here, this is a bacteria or a fungus that gets into those growth lines, and it turns them this really dark colour, which is just gorgeous. And that's the spalted side of it. Now, Luke, what he does is he takes his spalted beech from a guy that makes him close to him, so they're sourced locally, and then he stabilizes them. Now, stabilizing them is a process where you use a vacuum container, a vacuum flask, to suck all of the air out of the wood. And then it's dropped into resin, so that as soon as it's all done within the resin. So it's in the resin, so that when all of the air comes out, and then the vacuum container the vacuum is released so that air can come in, it draws all of that resin into the wood. So this is still wood, but it is harder than wood. It's ridiculous. Just makes it a very good material to work with, and it's certainly hard lasting. So around about November time, I think it was probably October, November time last year, I saw that Ev had started to release some photos. Oh great, that was some deer poo. That's nice. Let's get that off. Hey, we're an outdoors channel. We all like a bit of deer poo at the end of the day, don't we? Oh, that's disgusting. That's going to smell. My dog's going to love that when I get in. So I noticed that Ev had been working with some different materials on the handle, on the scales here, and something just in my head thought, do you know what, these would look absolutely amazing with some of this spalted beech. So I got in touch with Ev, and I said, if I can get some from Luke, do you think you'd be able to make me one that had some? And then he actually got in touch with Luke, and long story short, this is the first of its kind. So this is the first of Leading Edge Knife Works PCKs that have been made with this spalted beech, and I have to say it is absolutely stunning. The feel in the hand. What is it called now? So Luke introduced me to an amazing word called chitance. I believe chitance is a woodworking term where you can sand down the wood to exceptionally high level grit, so that it's just incredibly smooth. So I don't know if you'd call it a chitance rating, but yeah, it's incredibly smooth. But again, a lot of that comes down to the one that, yes, it's this really nice spalted beech, but it's also being stabilized as well. So the resin that is within here, there's no air in this, there's no moisture in this, there's no air in this whatsoever. All of those voids within the wood has been filled in with the resin. And then on the inside, you can see that we have these really, really nice brass liners. And as far as the closures concerned, so you have the pin here at the top, which is a rotating pin. There is a stopping pin here, which will make sure that when this closes, you've got at least 3 or 4 millimeters in there. And as far as is this centered, I mean, you'd need a micrometer to check if it was out. It really is that well centered. So you have your rotating pin here, and then here down at the back you have 2 barrel spacers, which are really nice and set into this. So if I wanted to, I can do a full strip down of this, so I can take this apart and clean it if needs be. It's just stunning. He's done a really nice finish to this as well. So it's been dropped in some ferric chloride. I believe it's also been dropped into a rock grinder as well to give this really nice effect to it. I'm not too sure about that. I think it is. I'm sure I spoke to Ev about it. And then on here as well, hopefully if I get this in the light, you can see that it's got the leading edge knife work on there as well. Across the back, he's done this gorgeous rock effect on there. The grind on here is more of a saber grind. Hopefully you can see it's reasonably high, and then it drops into, I don't know what you'd call this. I'd call this a modified Warncliffe, I guess. It's almost a drop point because you've got a curl there and then a curl across the belly here as well, whereas with a Warncliffe you would have more of a straight edge here at the bottom, and it is razor sharp. I dropped it earlier and had to catch it, and I could feel it starting to cut into me, and just brushing it lightly against my skin, you can feel it bite. You feel it bite initially. You can see as it judders across there, and you can see those little kind of micro bites that it's done. Ev also offers a service because he's a great knife maker, but he also offers a service where he will sharpen your knives for you as well, and he'll even go up to a mirror finish with just ridiculous levels of grit to make sure that this isn't a mirror finish on here, but you can see there the difference between where you have the finish on here and where it's been ground. There isn't a grinding, or there isn't a choil on there. But it's been left with probably maybe 1 millimeter or 2 from the ricasso. So if I did want to resharpen this in the future, if it did get blunt, I'd be able to make sure that I'd got a little bit of distance before I started to get into that grind, or at least before the ricasso if I wanted to do that. All in all, it's just a stunning pocket knife, with it being within UK legal kind of guidelines or laws as far as I can carry this. It's 3 inches or less, and there was also no locking mechanism. I like friction folders, mainly because you can push your thumb up here just to help it to keep open, but it will still close if you give it enough force. It's also a really nice kind of companion knife to this one that now has a bit of deer poo on it. But yes, I'm so glad that I stuck to my word, and I'm really glad that I noticed some of these other nice scale materials that Ev had been working on, and just thought, yeah, this is something that needs to happen. And yeah, so absolutely beautiful, amazing craftsmanship from one of the UK's nicest general kind of guys. Do you know what I mean? As far as knife makers go, Ev, yeah, he's just a star. And this is, let's call this the Moorlander Spalted Beech version of the PCK. Now, with those scales, material, just the overall geometry of this is a stunning knife. And I'm glad that I stuck to my word when I first got my hands on the PCK a few years back. And I was like, there's something special here. Ev has created just a very handsome friction folder, with it also being within the ever-changing UK laws about what can be carried. A knife like this, it's a very kind of internationally recognised safe knife, or at least I say safe within the friendly realms of local kind of laws and bylaws on what can be carried. And yeah, I got this. When I got it, I took it out, I held it, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is something special. So hope you've enjoyed it. It's a little bit different rather than, you know, going into specs, that sort of thing, but I thought it was prudent to tell more of the story about this, and I wholeheartedly recommend everybody get yourself on social media, have a look at Leading Edge Knife Work and all of the other knives that they have created. Send them some love, tell them that the Moorlander sent you. And yes, I will leave all of their links below. I'll leave some of my links below as well. Also to York Knife as well. Give them some love. And yeah, you know, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. It's a nice day today. There's lots of people actually walking in the woods. Walking in the... How dare they? Close. Far away. Close. Shoots. Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. There's a first today. There's been quite a few. Obviously, I'd like to think I'm reasonably new to this. Although I guess, you know, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. No, let's start again. Let's get straight into it. Shoots. Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now, there's definitely a first today. I've always had, you know, being in this kind of game, there's always a first. But this is a first that definitely means a lot. And this is my first... Shit, what is it? It's a knife, but it's a... What is it? Custom knife. That's what I was thinking of. You wazzock. Wazzock! First custom knife. Tit. You tit. Yeah, you know. Just forgot what I was going to do at the end, so I just might as well end it. You know. It's dead easy, isn't it? Yeah. Innit, Kev? Yeah, innit, Kev?